another episode of Oops All Dragons. And I am Lisa.
I'm Varun.
And here we are again. We've got a fun little thing for today. Before we get to that, Varun, what are you doing? What's with your life? What's going on? Because we only ever talk when we're recording, so this is my only time to catch up with my friend.
So Nova and I have been watching some old TV just because we finished the Golden Girls. So we're like, okay.
And the Golden Palace.
And the Golden Palace. It was a whimper of an end. And we just went back to the episode where B. Arthur comes back for a two-parter. That's a legitimate end to that show. But we've been watching a little bit of Cheers, but Frasier, we got into that. Frasier's pretty good. Yeah, I've never seen it before. And Cheers is one of those weird shows where, like, I don't think I've ever actually watched an entire episode of Cheers all the way through on purpose. It was maybe not in the background, but, like, the theme song comes on and you're like, I know all the words of this song. I've never seen this before, but, like, you know, where everybody knows your name and all that crap. So that's
it's one of those weird cultural touchstones where, like, you don't ever have to actually have directly interacted with it, and you'll still know something about it. Yeah.
And then other than that, I'm playing Shovel Knight Pocket Dungeon. That's pretty fun. And And I'm looking to get Pokemon Legends Arceus, because that looks like an actual upgrade to the Pokemon formula. The first one in, like, decades, really.
Yeah.
So it
looks I've been seeing a lot of very good things out of that game. Are you planning on picking
up without 50 menus?
Yeah. Are you planning on picking up Elden Ring?
I have seen very little of that game, so not right now.
Yeah, from what I understand, it's just like Dark Souls, but more D&D. It's Dark Souls Skyrim, basically. It sounds really fun. I would buy it for the character creation alone, but that's not worth like a $60, $70 game. So I will simply just sit and watch my friends make their little characters. But it's really interesting to watch, like, a bunch of my friends have picked up Elden Ring, and it's people who, as far as I know, have no interest in D&D, but they're talking about, like, what class are you picking? What race are you gonna play? And I'm like, just sitting here, just, like, trying to not be annoying, of being like, I know a game that you can play with your friends that you can be a barbarian. I know a game, or a cat person, and it's free. You just have to use your brain. And I mean, not that video games don't require use of your brain. Please, I'm not talking shit on playing video games. Don't come for me. But, like, yeah, do you want to come sit with your friends for 4 hours?
All right. So is Elden Ring all you've been up to?
Yeah, I haven't been playing it because I don't...
Just stalking?
I've just been stalking people who play it. I finished reading via audiobook, obviously. We don't need to go through this every week. I finished reading the first Lord of the Rings book, The Fellowship of the Ring.
How is it in audiobook form? Because I read it, and... it's kind of long sometimes. So through Libby, they have the version where Andy Serkis narrates it, and wow, he is incredible. He really, himself.
Yeah, literally. But what's interesting is, like, in the first book, Gollum only comes up as, like, Gandalf mentioning Gollum. So, like... he doesn't even really do the Gollum voice, but he does every other voice so well.
And he does voices for each character?
Yeah, he does a different voice for each character, different accents, different intonations. Like, it's really impressive. Like, I know that Andy Serkis is an incredible actor, but I didn't really have a full appreciation for his ability as like a voice performer, which makes sense because since he's like known as the motion capture guy, like his physicality is incredible, but also like I really didn't pay any attention to his like incredible like just vocal chameleon that he is.
Yeah, he plays Claw in Black Panther. He plays I forget the name, but the ape in Planet
the Apes.
Planet Apes movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gollum. Like he's all over the place.
Yeah. You named 3 things. We'll call that all over the place.
Like he's
but
done
yeah,
a bunch
no,
of other
he's
stuff
yeah,
that are, like,
he's
super prolific.
Yeah. He's not hurting for work, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's very good. I'm
Cool.
part way through the 2 towers now. So we are starting to get a little bit of Gollum. Oh my god, so much walking. So much walking. And like I think I'm like a quarter of the way through it, and it's like what's interesting is that quarter of the way through the book and Frodo and Sam have like not shown up yet. We saw them disappear at the end of the first book, and
it's
like so far it's literally just been
like Aragorn and Gimli.
Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli looking for Merry and Pippin.
Yeah, I remember that. From again, I read them all through. I was like, where the hell did like half the characters go?
Yeah, because they split up. Yeah, it's like a whole thing, and then I think I just got to the point where Gandalf returns as Gandalf the White. And it's interesting to look at it too, like as a person who has seen the movies a million times, and it's interesting. I just like to go, I see. I understand why they rearranged and changed and connected some of that stuff, and also getting a little bit more of the lore aspect of stuff that I didn't really know. Like, I had a vague idea about, but I didn't really, like, know. And just sort of, like, getting myself set up for the show that's gonna come out.
That's coming. When's it coming out?
Later this year, I believe?
This year.
Fall? I don't know.
Okay. So...
But, yeah, that's all I've been really up to, is...
Cool.
Reading, driving.
So, as the title and or description and or background hum may have already given it away, we have a guest on today's episode. It is my younger cousin, Chase, another South Florida local. And yes, even where you live, Chase, you're still technically South Florida. So, Chase is what we call a youth. He is
a youngin.
He's
a wee bab.
Still in high school. My God. But he has definitely been playing D&D, probably more so than Lisa and I on a regular basis right now, just given the scheduling issues.
Well, it's easy when like all your responsibility is to like go to school. Okay.
Scheduling is so easy when you and your friends don't have jobs and are still in high school.
Exactly.
He gets it. So before we get into it, it's Chase. What have you been up to besides D&D? I know you're a gamer.
I've actually been playing Elden Ring for the last 3 days straight.
So
you should have just piped in, honestly.
just broken in. Just like, how is Elden Ring?
It is extremely good. It is. I love that game so much. As a person who enjoys FromSoft games very much and probably has over 2,000 hours across all of them, it's very, very nice.
Okay. The most of any of the From Software games I've played is Bloodborne. I got pretty far in Bloodborne, and then I dropped off just because it got way too hard. And I was like, shit, I have other things to do. But, okay, because I know each one of them kind of has a different gimmick. Because Dark Souls is kind of block and hit. Bloodborne is absolutely like, you've got to dodge. That is not a blocking game. Sekiro, I know it's got its own thing with like the styles. So what's like Elden Ring's thing?
Elden Ring is a good mix, in my opinion. There are some enemies and some bosses that you most definitely have to dodge because blocking just won't do anything, but I feel like the best way to get through that game is a good mix of dodging certain slower attacks and blocking certain faster ones that take less stamina away when you block them.
That's it. Yeah, I think I saw the trailer and I'm like, oh, it's a mix of both worlds. Because I know they put a joke in the beginning of Bloodborne of like a shield that's like useless. Yes, it's useless in this game. But then, yeah, okay, so it's mixing its two formulas, and now you kind of have to, balance them both. Okay.
That would be the Plink shield of Bloodborne.
Yes.
The second shield in the game, with the first one being the Lock shield, which blocks magic and not anything else. But in the description of the Plink shield, it quite literally says that shields engender passivity, which is very good wording coming from FromSoft themselves.
Yeah. Anything else you've been up to?
My life has been completely consumed by Elden Ring as of late.
Okay. Elden Ring and Elden Ring. Alright, and I assume some D&D once in a while?
Yeah. I think the last time we played was 2 weeks ago.
Okay. Yeah, and you guys try to play every 2-ish weeks.
Yes,
which
we try and play every other weekend.
It's still a pretty good schedule. Like if you're able to keep it up with any sort of regularity. As me and Lisa have told you, our game, which we just got going back in November, back on hold until probably March, because people just schedules and problems and stuff.
It do be like that.
So, Chase, the youth. We want to get your perspective on where the extra youth, because Lisa's still youth, but she's getting on the cusp of like, I'm an adult now.
Medium young.
Yeah, and I am old as the road. So, yeah. How'd you start, man? How'd you get into D&D? Your dad told me that you've been playing, so like, how did you start?
Well, I started about 3 years ago. The way I started was pretty unconventional. I was just thrown into my friend's campaign without any former knowledge at all. He handed me a character sheet and said, "Here, make a character," and I started playing.
Here.
Yeah, thrown in the deep end.
Okay. I've heard a couple of those stories, but usually it's like, "Hey, do you want to play D&D?" It's not like, "Hey, do this."
It was not a question. It was an order.
Okay. So what was that first game like?
Well, my first character was a Hexblade Warlock. I didn't know how to play D&D back then, so he was a piece of work, to say the least. He was a Mind Flayer.
Oh.
Which, at that time, I just thought Mind Flayers were cool. I didn't quite grasp the ramifications of them.
Yeah.
So, I was kind of confused when the townspeople were scared of me.
A giant squid monster? Like, what?
Yeah, I was quite confused when the Kuatoa shopkeeper threw me out because I was a Mind Flayer, because I didn't know that the Kuatoa were enslaved by the Mind Flayers for a very long time and brought to the brink of madness by them.
Oh.
Now I know that I also probably shouldn't have just committed murder on that random dock person, but you know.
I love that concept of just someone who comes from a culture prone to doing terrible things, and then walking into another country just like dee, and everybody hates them, and they're like, "Why do you hate me?" It feels very like, hate to say it's Americans in the entire rest of the world.
So how did your adventures as a Mind Flayer progress? Like, was that session just like a one and done, or did you guys like make it an ongoing thing, or?
That campaign has been going on for ever since I started playing D&D.
It's been going
it was
on.
It was my first campaign, and continues to be the campaign that I still play to this day.
Oh my god!
For the last 3 years.
Are you still a Mind Flayer?
No, I'm not. I've gone through I think 4 characters in that time, because I just have a knack for getting murdered in the funniest ways.
Okay.
Share?
Yeah.
What do you mean? What does that mean?
Die? Yeah.
Well, the Mind Flayer walked into the ocean and died. I was under I had the thought that mind flayers weren't aliens and that they were octopus people, so I had the feeling that I could just walk into the water and not get murdered. So I did, and I got murdered, to no one's surprise.
What was it, merfolk, or was it a giant fish that ate you?
It was actually an aboleth.
Oh. Okay.
Apparently there was an aboleth patrolling the entirety of the coast of the island that we were on, and I just got obliterated by him.
Okay, and then?
And that was the end of my first character. Second character was a blood hunter tiefling. Matt Mercer's blood hunter classes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Very fun. Or it is now. Back when I played it, he hadn't gone back and updated it, so it was still kind of... It was still kind of iffy. But that character stuck his head into an orb of annihilation and got decapitated by it.
Why?
Why?
Why did you do this?
Well, we were on some sort of strange demi-plane that was basically comprised of a long hallway with doors on either side, most of which wouldn't open and had nothing on the other sides of them. So, I was playing in Order of the Ghost Slayer Blood Hunter, which has the ability to walk onto the ethereal plane. So I had the bright idea to go into the ethereal plane and try and walk through one of the doors. On the other side of that door was an endless, all-consuming void that destroyed my character, and he died.
Okay.
So...
Next.
My next character was a wizard who was a drider, a spider person. One of my fellow party members had a frozen mimic sword.
Huh.
And the party was hit by an anti-magic ray, awakening the mimic, which then proceeded to destroy me, as well as my friend. So that was another character gone.
Okay.
The character I'm playing currently is a elf. He is a paladin warlock, because I'm a naughty power gamer. So all of those extra spell slots right into Smite all the time, whenever I can, at least.
No, cool. Yeah, get this.
But he's still alive now.
Rest. Okay.
So, Mind Flayer, Tiefling, Spider person, Elf. Alright. I like how you're oscillating. You're oscillating between very unique choices to you know what? I'm just gonna play an elf.
I was going through a phase. It's fine.
No, it's delightful. What makes you go, no, not a human, not a halfling, not an elf. Spider. Yeah. What's this about?
I saw a picture of a drow, of a drider in the monster
Monster Manual?
Yeah. And I went, man, that would be a pretty cool character to play. I wonder if I can do that. And I asked my DM, and he was like, yeah, sure, I'll homebrew you up something cool. And I played a drider. And then I died, because my strategy, my overall strategy when it comes to playing D&D is to use area of effect spells on myself and hope that I survive, and also kill all my enemies. For example, my blood hunter was very prone to casting the darkness spell on himself to blind himself, as well as everything around him. My spider person was very prone to fireballing himself and everything else in the room and hoping that I don't die instantly, which I did die, but, you know, that's besides the point.
Were you an evocation wizard? Because you could carve yourself out to not get bombed.
I don't believe I was.
Okay.
don't quite remember what subclass I took for that character. I don't even remember if it was a wizard, now that I think about it. It was just a magic caster.
Oh,
Maybe it
okay.
was a sorcerer, I don't remember.
Okay.
That was a long time ago.
That's an interesting strategy. Is there anything larger behind that? Beyond, I don't know. I think it's cool.
Smoke bomb, yo. Just throw it at your feet and disappear, except also die.
All right. Okay, so how is that? Yeah, that campaign's still going on. The character dies, and you're pretty numb to it at this point. So how's it going now? Yeah.
Well, we started off the campaign on an island that had a town on it that was very similar to Innsmouth.
Mm-hmm.
H.P. Lovecraft's Innsmouth.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, the entire campaign has H.P. Lovecraft undertones. It's very, very cosmic horror-y.
That explains all
Okay.
the death.
So, to get off of the island, we had to fight that aboleth that killed me earlier. And that was a big boss fight that we did over 2 sessions, I think. And yeah, he was difficult, but me being the power gamer that I am, kind of wiped the floor with him a little bit more than my DM was expecting. So after that, we got transported to a different plane, I think. So now we're in the Feywilds, which is just the best place to be ever. It's my favorite.
Less
Obvious
cosmic
sarcasm
horror.
is obvious. Yeah, I don't like the Feywilds. It's not fun. Anyway, there's a town there that we went to, and lo and behold, a mind flayer is just walking around the town because apparently that town in the Feywilds is comprised of all monstrous inhabitants, and they're not seen as monstrous to the townspeople because they're all monstrous, so they're seen as normal. Yeah, so I started off the encounter with the mind flayer by trying to talk to him in deep speech. Turns out he doesn't know deep speech and can only speak common, which is my bad, apparently. According to my DM, I pulled a racism on him.
You did a
By doing that.
racism. How could you? You did a racism.
I
You
just
assumed.
accidentally racially profiled that mind
Yeah.
flayer, which is my bad, I guess.
You
even though they're
assumed.
literally like alien tyrants, but okay.
Yeah. Why did you assume he was just, gonna know how to speak alien tyrant language? Come on.
I mean, he also didn't have hands, so like
I'm loving this.
That's
this-
pretty chaotic. That's
This
fun.
campaign so
no,
far.
my DM is just an agent of chaos given he is an avatar of chaos given human form, and I don't know what to do with him. The mind flayer lost his hands doing like magic testing, I guess, to try and make new magic items, and he just blasted both of his hands off accidentally. So now he just has to walk around and pick things up with his hand stubs.
Not
not
just
the
a mage
stubs.
hand?
I don't know. There was a king in that town, even though it's a town. I don't know why there was a king in a town, but he is not intelligent individual. He
Hmm.
everything about that town just gave me a migraine. I don't understand.
So then, yeah. Where'd you guys go from there?
Turns out the town and that section of the Feywilds is surrounded by some sort of wall of energy death. So we had to get the mind flayer to make us magic cloaks that could withstand the wall of death. And we walked out into it, and lo and behold, everything outside of it is dead.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so it's like a little, almost like bubble.
Yeah, it was a bubble in a sea of death, which is the only way I know how to describe it. We walked out to a mine that had been abandoned in the wall of death, and grabbed some rare mineral from the mine. I forgot what the crystals were called. Something like deep crystals, I think. They were white, and then they got corrupted and turned purple.
Let me pause
It's
you for
weird.
a second. What are you guys supposed to be doing?
That is a
This
good
campaign?
question. Well, turns out by killing the aboleth that we had as a boss encounter, we, released some sort of cosmic entity that's going to eat everything if we don't hurry our asses up and move and do something.
How is an aboleth
And
keeping
stop
something
it.
like that in place?
I don't know. But, so it's currently our main objective is to try and figure out some way to stop the giant cosmic entity that's going to eat everything if we don't do something about it.
So it's one of those, well, you did one thing, so now you thought that was the big thing. Now here's a bigger thing, and then here's a bigger thing, and then here's a bigger thing.
Yeah, the aboleth was the one keeping us on the island, and then it turns out that he is actually a gatekeeper of some sort, or a prison warden keeping this giant, horrible eldritch monstrosity from absolutely just obliterating every plane of existence, which is great. I love when that happens.
Classic.
It's a tale as old as time, really. Classic story.
Okay. So you guys are having fun in this campaign. That's
Yes.
that's the most important thing. It sounds very chaotic, but hey, you guys are having fun. That's what's important. And I do like the fact that you've apparently just become numb to the fact that your characters may die. Have other people died in the campaign too, like other players?
Well, currently, we've kind of had a rough patch with finding players.
Okay.
Oh, you've cycled through other players.
Yes, we have.
Are you the only one who has been consistently with the game from the beginning, or is there anybody else who's been
No,
consistently there?
Me and one other person. We are currently a party of 2 going through this
And the
realm
same
of
DM.
chaos. But we used to have... We had 4 players for a spell, and then we had 4 players. We dropped one, got a second, 4th one for a little while, dropped him, and then dropped the 3rd player, and now it's just the 2 of us.
Was it just scheduling, or what? Was there some issue that came up?
Well, for the first 4th player, it was just an attitude issue. He played an Arakakra rogue, which is power gaming at its finest.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he kept on doing this thing where he would make an attack and then he would instantly bonus action hide even when there was no reasonable way he would be able to hide where he was. And he just kept on doing that, and I don't know why my DM kept on allowing him to do that, but that's what he was doing.
DM just didn't say no.
But yeah, we dropped him after he killed one of the other players.
Oh.
He yeah, he initiated combat in a forest with one of the other players and wiped the floor with them because, he can fly and he has a bow. And the other player was a martial character.
And was it like an in-game thing that caused this, or was it he was just being kind of snippy out of game and just being an a-hole?
It was a little bit of both. That player started off the confrontation by going, "I'm gonna turn this Arakakra into chicken," as in he was going to roast him on a spit and eat him, I guess. So, I guess it was. I guess it was technically the other player that started it, but I don't know. That guy was overall just not very.
Yeah, that's
good.
something that could be fun and funny to resolve in in character sort of banter, but if you take it really too seriously, even in character, that's the kind of thing where as players you kind of have to have an understanding of the sense of humor and not taking things so seriously, because then that bleeds over from in character infighting, which can be fun and funny and interesting, to a shitty vibe at the table in general, and that's how you get kicked out of a game, or, asked to not join again.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And then the others, was it the same thing, or scheduling, or what?
The third player, I don't actually know what was up with him. He was fine. He was good at roleplay, and he really liked the game. But he started showing up to less and less sessions over time. And, I don't know, he just dropped it one day without really explaining why.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes scheduling does cause problems in that sense.
Question for you, because you're not the DM in the situation, but at the end of the sessions, does the DM ask for feedback? How did they do?
No, not really. I mean, he knows he's doing good, I don't ever have feedback for him because I would only give him feedback if I thought that something was amiss.
Okay.
But yeah, overall, he's a fine DM. He's been doing it for a very long time now.
And what about you? So, outside of playing, you also do DM. What are your...
Yes.
How did you get into that?
I have DM'd 3 campaigns now. The first 2 didn't really go anywhere, and we cut them short because of scheduling issues and stuff like that. But the first campaign I DM'd was a pre-made module. I think it was Into the Abyss. Is that what it's called? Yeah. One of my players played a Gloomstalker Ranger, so that's great. Yeah, Into the Abyss takes place in the Underdark, which is just perpetually in pitch blackness, and he played a Gloomstalker Ranger, which means that he was basically invisible the entire campaign.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that campaign didn't really go that far. I think we only had a couple sessions before we had to stop. But yeah, my second campaign was a homebrew campaign. Because after playing Into the Abyss, I wanted to try my hand at homebrewing. It didn't go that far. I was still new to DMing, so I wasn't really good at it, to say. But yeah, this campaign that I'm running currently, my third one, is also homebrew, and it's been going very, very smoothly. Very nice.
What do you think you learned from that first homebrew campaign that helped improve you, helped set you up for this third campaign that you're running now?
DMing is difficult, especially when you're running a homebrew campaign, and that's just how it is. But
yep,
every single session that you have is another chance to learn from your mistakes and get better, and that's what I did. I learned how to design areas and towns and NPCs better. I learned how to roleplay my NPCs and my characters better. Source books are really, really nice.
Mm-hmm.
Who'd have thought?
Who would have thought that actually reading a source book would come in handy?
Oh boy, who'd have thought that actually doing the reading?
Yeah, Lisa.
Shut up.
Specifically Volo's Guide and Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. Those two source books I've probably read front to back 3 times over now.
Awesome.
They are so extremely useful. I cannot even begin to explain how much they've helped me. Also, it's mainly the beginning of Mordenkainen's and Volo's. Not really the bestiary part, but more the little, sections that explain a certain type of foe, such as orcs or Yuan-ti.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Where it talks about their history, how to roleplay them, their social stuff, their, gods, stuff like that. It's just...
those really useful lore blurbs that we talked about on the last episode, Lisa.
Yeah, it all comes back around to the lore blurbs.
Yeah, lore blurbs.
Genuinely super useful, honestly. It's great.
I would also, if you're looking for lore stuff, if you're able to get Fizban's Treasury of Dragons, if you want to do dragon-centric stuff, awesome. Introduces a lot of new dragon lore. And Tasha's Cauldron of Everything is just kind of a good catch-all book, so you don't have to buy all these other like source books and everything. It captures a lot of the ones that had come up to that point.
Yeah,
so that's another good one.
I've skimmed through both of those. That new source book looks good. Monsters of the Multiverse, I think it's called.
Yeah, Monsters of the Multiverse looks fun. There's just like, it just looks real thick. And we'll get to it when it gets out.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
If you like, I don't know what your guys' setup is, but if any of you have
do you guys play in
on,
person?
I was gonna say,
Yeah, we play in person.
yeah. But even if you play in person, if one person gets the books on D&D Beyond, they can share that to everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I don't use battle maps or anything.
It's all theater of the mind.
Yeah, I sit there with my laptop that has my campaign notes on it, as well as anything else I need to look up, and my players have their character sheets out in front of them, and that's about all the setup we need.
How old school?
I don't know. Sometimes I'll pull out a chessboard and put like chess pieces on it for battles, just to have a.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, because that's
Yeah.
all squares.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Why did I never think of that? That's interesting.
Because sometimes it's too small for some of the stuff.
Yeah.
Some of the scale.
Yeah, that's the kicker right there. Is
yeah.
There's only so many. Yeah, there's only so many on that chessboard. So if you have an encounter bigger than that, you're kind of screwed a little bit.
Yeah. Like for battle maps, like you've seen it, Lisa. Like, you know, you can get a dry erase, battle map with all the squares for like $5 or something like that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I always encourage folks to get that because it's super cheap. It lasts forever. As long as you erase it after you're done using it, just don't leave the marker on it, and it won't smudge up. And you'll have that forever.
Yeah, and worst case, you take a couple pieces of paper, tape them together, draw out a grid.
Yeah.
You don't even really need to draw out, like, the, landscape or anything. Sometimes just having the grid is already useful enough for seeing movement and placement.
If you're playing a particular tactical game, that's when it's most useful.
Or if it's a fight where it's, like, it's useful to know where you are in relation to, like, the other players and the whatever it is that you're fighting.
Mm-hmm.
Literally just having a grid is already super useful.
Yeah. Well, no, I didn't know you guys went that is old school D&D where you have the DM, their notes, a DM screen, the players have their sheets, and that's pretty much it. You'd be lucky if you got a grid. It was all very much imagination based. So that's cool, man.
It's good to know the kids are still playing it that way.
I always thought, before I played, D&D was like that one Gravity Falls episode where they play dungeons and more dungeons and have just grid paper just taped up on the walls into the ceiling.
Yes. I mean, depending who you play with, that's exactly what it is.
That was always my thought of D&D, but now that I'm playing it, it is much more simple than that. Although you could do it that way if you want.
People would bring in old school games, because they didn't really have a lot of visuals, people would bring graph paper and as they're exploring the dungeon, map out dungeon. I turn right here, okay, I can't turn left here, that sort of thing. And they could they would actually map out the dungeon themselves. So that's where that comes from. But yeah, it's you can play it anyway, and you guys are playing pretty like bare minimum of what you need, and just letting the imagination do the rest, which is absolutely valid.
I don't want to buy battle maps, bro.
Like I said, just buy the dry erase one, and then that's all you ever need, and then you got toys or whatever the hell else.
Oh yeah,
use that as the actual terrain.
I'm gonna use Monopoly pieces for my characters. Yeah. It's great.
The top hat is a mind flayer. Come on.
Of course.
Although it doesn't sound like you guys have minis, does it?
No, we do not have minis.
So just wait until you have a slight amount of money, when you're able to either create your own or buy them or something, and you're like, yeah, I can make my own custom piece, and I can paint it and make it look like what I want in my brain, then you're getting into you're getting to like at least a territory of wanting to express the aesthetics a bit more, because I know that's a lot of your stuff, your dice, your minis and stuff.
Oh yeah. Oh, that was something. Should have covered this in the preamble in the Marin. I bought a Beholder mini for friend of the show Austin, my DM, because I was like, this looks like it'll be fun to paint. I don't want to give him any ideas. Then he was like, I'm gonna find a way to fold this into our game, and I'm like, no, that's the opposite of what I wanted. But I did, like, I started to paint it. I did like the under sort of like color blocking for it, and I forgot how fun it is to paint minis even if you're not good at it. It's so fun. So that might be something I take up again, is mini painting.
Yeah. I think I mentioned it last episode, but we fought Tiamat, and the DM for that game has a miniature for Tiamat, and he forgot it that day. I'm like, when are you ever going to use this ever again? We're fighting Tiamat today.
Literally.
When are you ever going to bring this out again?
Terrible. That's another thing about this game that happens so often, is that we'll have like all these random ephemera around us, and then like the one time that it would actually be pertinent, we just don't have it.
Forgot it. Don't bring it. Oh, I'm not gonna get to that today. Oh shit, you do fight Tiamat today. Okay, so Chase, when you created your own kind of homebrew world, like what method did you use? Did you use any sort of method? Like how detailed or how not detailed did you go?
I started with the initial idea of the kingdom, and then from there I shaped the continent around it, like adding a landscape, like forests and hills and stuff, and then from there I added in locations that have story significance or ones that don't, that the party can just explore on their own volition.
Okay.
I've set it up like an open world video game like Skyrim, because I don't know, that is just the easiest way I found to do it. But
and how much detail did you put into each place?
So there's some places that definitely have more detail than others. Like story significant places have, obviously they need to have a lot of detail.
Did you write a book?
No.
Good.
Not story significant places do not have that much detail at all. It's usually just, this is a cave. It has goblins in it and a trap, and the loot at the end is like 2 gold pieces and maybe a magic item, and that's pretty much it.
Okay.
And that's just the entirety of the area. And then, I don't know.
Sometimes I'll like... And then do you let like the players kind of fill in more of the world as they actually play in it?
Yeah, the town that they started out in is a very small town that was on the coast, on the beach. And from there, I set up the rest of the world through NPC dialogue and stuff like that. Like, oh, this town is part of the Greater Kingdom, and you know, stuff like that. And there's a church, and the people in the church worship this god, except he's kind of not nice to people. Stuff like that.
As it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my party is a absolute agent of chaos. I should have known that letting the DM play, letting the other DM, the DM from the other campaign play in my campaign was going to bring some of his chaos over into the world. So he immediately started the campaign by stealing an ancient artifact from the church, which, yeah, that's... You probably shouldn't do that, just as a rule of thumb.
Yeah.
As soon as that happened, all the townspeople got lined up in the center of the town, in the town square, and a divine priestess person with golden eyes came out and started questioning people. For all intensive purposes, when she talks to you, you're under the effect of Zone of Truth because of her eyes. So the party had to dip out because they couldn't just lie to her face without her knowing. So they ran, and they got chased by the guards. Once again, the Forever DM from the other campaign pulled a stellar move and used Gust of Wind to knock down the guards that were chasing them and get away, which I didn't plan on, so they got away. And then they started camping out in the woods near the town, dodging search parties and stuff like that.
So the campaign's just all about this now?
Well, they were originally meant to go talk to the king of the kingdom and maybe do some quests there and, like, talk to the guy in the church and stuff like that. No, they're outlaws now. They can't go anywhere. They can't go within 100 feet of any settlement without getting killed by the guards. They can't.
They're extremely wanted.
Oh, I forgot to mention. They broke the artifact.
Oh, that's always the kicker.
Oh, boy.
So, the artifact is a small glass ball. Actually, I wouldn't really call it glass. It's more of a crystal. It's a small crystal sphere with a blue light shining in the center of it. And basically, one of my players is a warlock. He is a warlock of the crown, which is a homebrew pact that I let him take.
Mm-hmm.
It basically gives him a crown given to him by his patron that resembles them in some way. He's playing a Gulak, his patron being the Great Old One. So his crown resembles a Great Old One. Very unsettling, very something you wouldn't want to see someone wearing
Very
ever
tentacly.
without with keeping your sanity.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So he touched the artifact to his crown, and it just shattered. That artifact just turned into a million pieces of glass dust. So they scooped up the dust into a pouch, and now it's hanging from the wizard's hip. And they are currently on the run, trying to get somewhere where they're safe, trying not to get caught by the authority, trying not to get murdered by the clerics that the church are sending after them. All this good stuff.
So the rest of the party can't sell out the guy who actually stole it because they're all wanted at this point.
Yes, they all ran. They are all wanted. There's a war approaching the kingdom that was supposed to be like the main plot point of the game, and now the party is just going to be camping out in the woods in the middle of this bloody war, which is great. I love when that happens. They were supposed to like go talk to the king, help him fight in the war, do some damage, like go do some early damage to the enemy camps or something, like, you know, poison their food supply, something like that, to weaken the troops a little bit before the war came, to make it easier.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're just wanted. So
You made the cardinal new DM mistake of they were supposed to do something.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think your DM friend was illustrating, maybe not in the best way, but the players can and potentially will destroy any plans that you have, and you've got to kind of balance that of like, I had this thing planned and now they're doing X, how do I rearrange and get them back, you know, on track to what was kind of planned here, or are we just gonna go nuts and now they're criminals on the run?
well, as of currently, they've all grabbed disguise kits and have disguised themselves so that they can walk into the kingdom without instantly alerting guards.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Assassin's Creed, where you're walking around with your hood on and somehow that makes the guards not see you. So yeah,
they don't want anyone to look too closely at them though.
They found they found an eldritch artifact, a large greatsword that has the ability to meld people into matter, and they have gone to the king's court sorcerer to try and either sell it or figure out what it can do or something like that. And it's so impossible for me to try and figure out what they're going to do because they're a bunch of agents of chaos, absolutely just they say they're gonna do one thing, like they're gonna go help this old lady, and then they end up like feeding her to a dragon somehow. Don't even know how that happens.
They're not even like zagging on you, they're just doing something else entirely.
But yeah,
when he thinks they're gonna zig, they stab.
Yeah.
It's just, oh, there's an old lady that needs our help? It would be a shame if we were to feed her to a dragon, or there's an evil warlord that needs taking out. Why don't we join his army?
So
what?
They're just villains at this point?
At this point, they are quite literally just chaotic evil. Not good. They should. I don't understand.
So, two questions. So, did you have a session 0 with these guys to talk about like what you actually want out of this campaign?
I had a session 0 where I basically just set up the world and, well, because they're all newbies, so I had to teach them how the game works.
Not the DM.
No, not the DM. The DM wasn't at the session 0 because he was doing something that day, but I had to teach all the newbies how to play D&D, so session 0 was basically just, alright, here's how you play the game, and here's a practice encounter. Try and not die here. They had to make their characters, which took a very long time because they're newbies and didn't even know how to get to Roll20 or Wikidot to see the classes that they want to play, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Which I highly prefer Wikidot over Roll20, just saying.
That's a virtual tabletop too?
No, Wikidot is just all the information of D&D without having to like buy the source books. Yeah, because Roll20 doesn't let you see.
It's out there,
like,
but then
you
have to manually put it all in. Yeah. That is the benefit of buying it on Roll, which that is not particular. I don't think that's illegal. It's just like you got the info, now you have to manually put it all in, and we're just paying you. You know, you're paying for the convenience.
Yeah.
If you got the info elsewhere, all right, fine. You just put it on manual yourself.
I really like Roll20 as a platform to play D&D on.
Mm-hmm.
The customizable character sheet in Roll20 is very well, very intelligently designed.
For custom stuff, Roll20 is the best I've seen.
Yeah.
Yeah, because my campaign is in person. My other DM's campaign is online using Roll20. It used to not be online, but ever since COVID happened, they've been iffy about doing it in person. But soon enough here, we're going to switch back to doing it in person, which saddens me, honestly, because I really like the character creator on Roll20. Yeah. I really like how streamlined it is, how...
So that was going to be my second question, kind of around that. So, if you had the session 0, but it was more about the mechanics of the game, and now things have kind of gone crazy in respect of what you thought was going to happen, do you think you should get your players together out of game, get them in a chat or whatever, and just have a chat, all of you as players, and like, okay, what do you actually want out of this campaign? Like, do you want to be the villains? And if so, we can create a campaign around, I can tailor the campaign around that. Or I have this plan, but like, should I even do that if you guys are not going to take advantage of it?
Well, at this point, they don't really have a choice on whether to be the villains or to do the right thing or not.
Because they've set themselves up in a way where, like, there's not really much redeeming themselves.
Yeah, they don't really have the ability to redeem themselves at this point.
I was going to say, this is all imaginary. Like, they could be like, oh yeah, we do want to redeem ourselves. How do we do that, DM? And let's make a thing about that. Or how do we fix this magic thing that we broke, or whatever it is?
I mean, it's an artifact. You can't just fix artifacts. You can't just break artifacts either, but here we are.
But you could set them up for how to atone for it, and also, it is imaginary. You absolutely could.
You absolutely can. I will assure you, you can fix an artifact, because
none
of this exists.
Lost forge, lost, if it's a glass item, how does glass get made? Like, it's a kiln, right? It's a...
Yeah, you just melt it down and you blow it.
Yeah.
You can have somebody mention, like, oh, there's a lost ancient kiln, and if they go to the kiln, they can reforge the thing, and then you can make it like a skill check to some sort of, like, skill challenge to test them to see if they, like, are actually able to
maybe not
only physically remake it, or, like, find and appease some sort of magical ancient being that has the ability to remake it or something. But there is always that option. But Varun's right. Like, it is a matter of, talk to your players. Do they want to be villains? If they want to be villains, that's great. Good for them. And then you can adjust your own expectations and how you plan for your sessions based on that.
Yeah, so or if work.
Yeah, or if they do say, actually, no, we do want to redeem ourselves in one way or another, you can then, set that up. No cause is ever truly lost.
Yeah, as it stands currently, I know my players. I know my players, and I know that their mentality is just true neutral, do whatever it takes to gain benefit for yourself and screw everyone else. And that's just their overall outlook as players, not even their characters. So, if I did give them the option to try and redeem themselves, they just wouldn't take it or mess up again.
I was gonna say that, you can just get them aside and say, like, okay, this is like player talk, and this is more for you on just like, okay, how am I actually gonna build out what we're gonna be doing this session? Okay, what do you guys want to do? And these are kind of the options on the table, or is there something else that you're trying to get out of this? And then you as the DM know, okay, this is what they want to do. And if it's like they want to be villains, all right, gloves off, let's go crazy. And, let me stick some actual, like, stuff on them that's trying to hunt them down now.
I am 100% certain they do want to be the villains without even having to talk to them, because the wizard already made a pact with, like, an ancient evil deity that wants nothing more or less than the death of all creatures. Where's the thought process?
I was gonna say, I'm not saying you don't know the players. I'm just like, it doesn't ever hurt to talk to your players outside the game, because it sounds like, you had X in mind, and now they're doing Y. So just like get them together and be like, okay, what are we as players actually aiming to do? Telling a story? Are we having a lot of battles? What do you want to do? And then you as the DM, you have your direction, and then from there, go.
I mean, I should have known he would have taken that deal, because his character is a kobold, a highly intelligent kobold, I must say, not like a kobold capable of reading. I mean, kobolds are already intelligent, but like a different type of intelligent. His character is a wizard, and his main goal in life is to prolong his life in any way possible. I could very easily see him going down the path of lichdom if I gave him that option, which is one of the reasons why he took this deal with this ancient evil god, because if it prolongs his life in any way or gives him some sort of new power, he's gonna take it.
All right.
He's like a knowledge hoarder. He seeks out spell scrolls and books and just holds on to them and tries to glean information from them all the time. He is obsessed with shiny objects. And for his backstory, he wrote that this kobold was studying magic under a master who happened to be a necromancer. So this necromancer prolonged his life using magic, prolonged the kobold's life. And yeah, that having that as your backstory is kind of telling as to the ulterior motives of your character. So
Oh, for sure.
my other characters are just as crackpot insane. One of them is a barbarian that is kill on sight for elves. He just absolutely hates elves so much.
Oh boy.
Having an elf as an NPC in my campaign at any point is a guaranteed way for the barbarian to just instantly rage and go after him.
Is there any reason for that in his backstory, or just
I
because?
don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a
a-
great thing to, like, we talk about, like, DMs randomly sending just very weird questions to their players. This is a perfect opportunity for you to go, hey, what's up with the elves thing? Is there a reason for that? Let's talk about it. Let's set something up.
Give a little depth to
Yeah.
why he goes nuts when he sees
Because
elves.
because then you can turn that around and actually have that one of the next time that barbarian does that, make it have some dire consequences.
Okay, so there's a barbarian that hate elves, a wizard that will do anything in his power to become immortal. There's a monk who is the most normal out of the players. He's his alignment is good, and he's a pretty seasoned player, so I'm not
What's he
worried
doing
about
with
him.
all this stealing and murder?
He's kind of just been going along with it, trying not to create friction. I don't know. The fourth and final player is a homebrew race that I designed myself called Beholderkin, as in the humanoid beholder, basically.
It's the human with a beholder head.
They're like what would happen if you shrunk a beholder down into a humanoid shape. That's basically what they are.
So he's like Mike Wazowski, but with a bunch of eye stalks?
Yeah, basically.
Ah!
Well, okay. His body is completely humanoid, and it's covered in beholder skin, like patches of it, like a Yanti.
Yeah.
Okay.
And instead of like hair or a beard, he just has eye stalks that stick out of his head everywhere. So,
And a big
rule,
toothy mouth.
yeah, and a single eye. Single eye. Wait, how many eyes do beholders have? Wait a second.
Like,
It's 1 in the middle and 10 stalks.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I don't know why. I could have sworn I saw a picture of a beholder with 2 main eyes for some reason.
nah, they got the
Whatever.
one big one. But yeah, he's a mutated Mike Wazowski.
Yeah, but he's a warlock, and he's the warlock that broke the artifact.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, boy.
His entire character is that if anything sees what he truly is, he kind of just has to leave. So he's always under the effect of some magical effect that changes his appearance to make his eye stalks look like regular hair. He always wears heavy clothing, a robe, a hood covering his head, all that stuff. Yeah, I really like how that race came out. Like I said, I designed it myself, and it was the first time I tried designing a homebrew race. I think it came out pretty well.
No, that's good.
I mean, Varun, it sounds like the kids might be alright. They're doing some eclectic shit. They're doing everything they can to break this game.
They're dealing with moral relativism, or just being agents of chaos.
Yeah. It's interesting. I feel like in every game I play, the players like to think that we're agents of chaos, but we're really not. Like, this is the most chaotic thing I've ever heard.
Yeah. So my last question is, you as the DM, you're having fun, yes?
Yeah.
All right, that's what matters. Yeah. I always encourage folks to, new DMs, ask for feedback from your players, even if even if the session went well. Ask, what did you like? What didn't you like? That just gives you, even if someone might have, even if it was a fun session, someone may have found something that, this was kind of, that could have done better, or maybe I didn't like this, or whatever it was. And even if it's not to the group, it makes sure that they know that they're free to give you feedback one-on-one. So, yeah, if there is something someone has to bring up, they know they're open to do that. And then, I always encourage folks to just talk to their players and just make sure they're on the same page. And if they are, awesome. Have your crazy campaign of ending the world or whatever it is. But yeah, so last couple things, because we're getting to the end here. So you already talked about a bunch of memorable moments, many deaths, many people getting melted into floors. Do you have any advice for any new players and or prospective dungeon masters?
I don't know. For new players, I think the simplest advice I could give is read the books, learn the game, get comfortable with it before you decide to go in, or get comfortable while you're going in, As for new DMs, definitely try running a pre-made module as your first thing. Try doing it a couple of times before you start homebrewing and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Adding unnecessary complication to your first time DMing is how you create massive headaches and massive problems.
Don't I know it? my first game DMing was a homebrew thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I learned, yes. It was an experience. It was a learning experience. But yes, if I had run something pre-made, would have probably gone a lot smoother for that first bit. So I am in agreement for folks who are kind of reticent for DMing. Something pre-made takes a lot of that lifting off your shoulders.
Final piece of advice. This is what I told my friend, my new player that wanted to try DMing out. Every single session is a learning experience, whether it goes bad or good. Every time you DM or you play, you learn something, and you gain that experience to help you in the future. There is such thing as a bad session, but there's no such thing as a session that doesn't help you out in the future.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
it's a continuous learning thing.
That's where the feedback comes in. I'll always ask for feedback, but and to draw the difference, there's a difference between something bad happening in the session and a bad session. Because something bad can happen, but the players still really enjoy the session, depending on how it goes down. Like, they like the role-playing. But then, I've heard horror stories of people, like, getting into fights, and, like, someone punches someone. That's a bad session. Like, okay, game's done.
Wait, in
real life.
Mano a mano?
Yeah, like in real life, someone did something. Like, listen to our buddy Kirk Crab there. He has a couple stories of just, something happens out of game, someone decks someone at the table. All right, that's a bad session. Yep.
Yeah, once it gets into a physical altercation, you're
mainly
gotta
when you're
reassess.
Bringing out of game stuff into the game. That's usually a bad session.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. So no, I absolutely love your advice of read the books, know how to play D&D. Great. And also, don't. I'll add on to that. Don't be afraid to ask your dungeon master questions. Like, if you're not understanding something, ask them. Ask them to clarify it.
Always make backup characters. always.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Never not have a backup character available.
Fair enough, especially in a game like you're playing in, where yes, they can come and go really easily. All right, I think we'll go ahead and call an episode there. So, Lisa, where can people listen to us?
Well, wherever you're listening to us now, you can listen to us here. We've got Twitters, we've got Instagrams. It's all at Oops All Dragons.
Follow us on Twitter. You'll get notified when new episodes go up. And our main platforms are
YouTube and
Spotify. But yeah, if you check our Twitter, we do have a link tree to other platforms. If you use Google Podcasts or whatever, we're on a ton of other spots as well.
Yeah. Leave comments for suggestions, things you want to hear us talk about. If you think that you're interesting, you've got something to say, maybe we want to hear it.
Like, comment, and subscribe. We were ending the show.
Goodbye!
Goodbye, everyone.
See ya.
Oops All Dragons is a group effort. Our show is edited by Noel Hernandez, our theme was composed by Brendan Lyons, and our logo art is by Azif On Q. Links to more of their work and their social media will be in the show notes. Find us on YouTube and Spotify, and check us out on Twitter and Instagram at Oops All Dragons.